Welcome to Death Holler, the place of haunted hearts and haunted homes. We welcome you to Death Manor, the home that boasts the most ghosts. Come on in. We've been expecting you. Take a look around. You might see someone that you recognize. Do you hear those voices? That's just the Reverend Dr. Death and Llareyna. They're so happy to see you. Sit back and relax. Make yourself at home. Your new home. And remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Death Holler. It's been a while since we last spoke, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I am your host, the Reverend Dr. Death. Joining me, as always, is my co-host and the dark reflection of grief, Llareyna. What's happening in the mirror universe, Llareyna?
I almost spit out my coffee. You know, things are great over here. People just really trying to bash my glass and get me down, and it's not happening. I'm not letting them, so... And in turn, I just keep fucking with them. So it's really good over here in the spirit world.
That's good. That's good that you're having fun over there as you collect more souls into your glass there you got. If today we're discussing the often overlooked and criminally underrated film Oculus, another film by Mike Flanagan, who at this point should be sponsoring this podcast.
Yes, where is the sponsorship, Mike? I mean, can we at least get, what are those called when you get like those voice messages from people, actors or whatever?
Oh God. Yeah. I don't know what the official word is.
Yeah. But can we get one of those from your hot wife?
Yeah. Which I want to apologize for up front. I think on the last episode I said Seagal. I think it's Siegel. It's Kate Siegel's his wife. So
tomato, potato. Yeah. We're gonna make mistakes. We're human. So, but you are hot.
But Oculus is one of his earlier films, and to me, the best examples in the genre of the Bloody Mary style hauntings, which we'll get into. Well, except for Candyman, which is, for the purposes of this podcast, we're going to consider a slasher, so it won't be in the Ghost series necessarily.
A little hybrid, if you will.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. But before we get into all that, how about we catch up a little and look at a goofy little comedy horror film? Podcast plug, though. If you're enjoying this podcast, we would appreciate if you would take the time to like, comment, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. It helps us get more visibility on podcast listings and helps us grow. We appreciate everyone who listens. Hope you enjoy the show.
Woo!
Catch up time. Llareyna, you have been living it up in Vegas, so why don't you start us out on your little adventure you just went on with Daphne?
Oh man, we're gonna say her name because we have an episode. If you haven't watched it already, we have a vlog, as she likes to call it, of our time in Vegas. We were living La Vida Loca, and Avi, who you and I both know through Supernatural: The Crossroads, another podcast that. Yes. We all listen to. I think that's all how we met if it wasn't Rain Man, but it's on the Rain Man digital network. So, you know, folks, you know, we're not sponsored by Rain Man or anything. I don't even know if they know that we're doing a podcast, but we all met. And if you want to listen to some quality podcast there as well, if you like Supernatural, if you like Star Wars, they're great. And they got us started. Yeah. Not only did they get us listening to some really great podcasts, but they also let us join in every now and then and got us started on what we are currently doing now. So they were the inspiration, inspo. But anyways, the long of the short is that's how we all met. That's how the Reverend and I got to doing this. Avi and I, sometimes Daphne and I, will do separate podcasts as well. And we have never met in person. So it was Avi's idea one drunken afternoon, at least it was afternoon my time, it's probably evening y'all's time, to go to Las Vegas for the Supernatural convention. And I've never been to one. And I was like, bitch, I will book the room now. I'm not playing. And I did exactly that. And over a year and a half, I want to say, planning, because it got extended. It got moved out.
There was... You were talking about it for a while, I feel like.
Yes. But she got up one morning. She got that stim, and she was like, bitch, buy your tickets now. Literally. Like, it was 5 o'clock in the morning my time, and I just look at my husband. I'm like, I got to buy my tickets. Bought our tickets. We end up in Vegas together just about, roughly, 2 weeks ago. And meeting each other in person was pretty cool because it was like, just we known each other. It was like, oh, hey, hi, hugs. Wow. And then that was it. Like, it was like, cool. Now let's go do the shit we talked about doing. I know I had a great time in Vegas. It was a 5 out of 5 vacation. Okay. It was fresh as fuck on the rotting corpses scale. Okay. But the convention itself, COVID definitely beat that convention. My expectations, I think, were too high. What was delivered was stupid. I mean, like, usually they have like this karaoke night that's supposed to be amazing. Not one person on that stage. We couldn't hear one person singing because they had to wear their mask while they were doing karaoke.
Oh, God.
It was fucking horrible. One person we heard, I'm trying to think, and she was good, but she must have known no one's going to hear me unless I belt this out. And that's exactly what she did.
Yeah.
So nothing too spooky with the Supernatural convention. A lot of definitely wannabe witches out there. Real witches. Avi and I we were at a vendor, and I'm like, she's a fucking real witch. And she didn't advertise herself as a witch. We just knew. We're like, oh, this bitch is legit right here. My dad thinks I'm now a devil worshiper. I don't know if you managed to hear about that.
I did see those posts on Facebook, yes.
Yes, that was funny. My dad thought that I was at a witchcraft convention. I spent the whole day trying to explain to my parents that I am not worshiping the devil, that I'm wearing a pentacle, not a pentagram. And
ready to say, you've got to bring that up.
Yes.
You've got to mention the fact you were wearing homemade pentacles, not pentagrams, which is a staple of Supernatural, if anybody listening doesn't know. But.
Yes. Lots of protection sigils. I had a lot of those. And not only did I spend the whole day trying to convince them, okay, like, I'm not a witch and this is a protection sigil. You need to look at history a little bit. Then I went and took a picture with Rowena, the most notorious witch, and now the Queen of Hell in Supernatural. And if you think my parents are going to take the time to Google this shit, they're not. All they know is that I took a picture with a witch who is now the Queen of Hell. So
I still enjoy, this is a side tangent, but I still enjoy that picture that I sent you all in the Discord chat a while back that I saw where it's Jim Varney, who played Ernest P. Worrell, was is a younger version of him. And he was wearing the pentacle around his neck because he was into like ancient European like religions, I think, at the time, and he was just like investigating them, and he and it was just weird to see Ernest of all people with a pentacle or around his neck. But
the most mistaken symbol in history, I swear. I mean, I'm not into pentacles at all. Like, it's not something I keep on my daily, obviously with my new insulin patches that I have, or my glucose sensor patches, I have Supernatural stuff on those. So,
well, diabetes is the devil. So
diabetes is the devil.
It is. So that's a good place
new
to put
slogan. Diabetes is the devil. Protect yourselves. My blood sugar has been great since I started using those patches. So, hey, the protection is there. So yes, like I said, Vegas, 5 out of 5. I think the spookier parts about Vegas were walking the streets at night. That was fun. So I'm not going to go into detail, but we saw some shit. So I thought it was hilarious. I don't think Avi got much enjoyment out of it, but she survived and we had a great time. So
I've got to ask you though. I mean, because I've not been to a supernatural convention, but I have been to one here in Kentucky that's put on fairly regularly called Scarefest, which is a mix of paranormal TV, like the Zach Bagans, Ghost Adventures, and mixed with like horror movies. And I mean, I used to like them a lot back probably about 10 years ago when the prices were more reasonable, before they started asking for everything under the sun. It's like, okay, for like $25, you can have an autograph and get a picture at the table and meet with a person. It's like, great. Now it's like $50. You might get something autographed, but you're going to have to pay $100 for like a photo opportunity or some kind of crap. And I know that supernatural conventions are way worse about that stuff.
Oh,
so
big
like,
time.
were you all like hit with a sticker shock of all that crap, or?
It's funny. Yes. Well, I kind of knew, because you look at the prices ahead of time. You know what to expect. We paid a lot of money for our seats. We did get amazing seats, and we were copper. We weren't even gold or silver. Those were the top-notch ones. And our seats were literally, I think, 4 rows back from the front, 4 or 5 rows. Okay. And in a good area, we got to see everything. I really loved where our seats were. I mean, if I had the money on the spot, I really had fun at the convention, which, spoiler alert, I did not. I would rebuy those seats again in a heartbeat. The convention, I mean, if things get better, I would probably consider going to one again. And I definitely told Avi, look, if you go again, I would go. Just to hang out with you again. We had so much fun. But going back to the sticker shock, I paid $60, 50-something, to get a picture with Julian Richings as Death. And he did not make it. And I think that's really where my experience went downhill. I was like, fuck, this is going to suck balls.
Did they not refund that money if he didn't show up?
They do refund you. Yeah. Well, you can get refunded, or you can get money to do something else. So they gave money to either spend at the vendors. And I knew I was going to spend the money anyways. What I ended up doing was using it to get a picture with Rowena, but I had to pay the extra because she was 60, not 50. So basically, I paid $60 to take a picture divided by plexiglass with Rowena.
I saw that bullshit.
Yeah, so it really dampened the experience. There didn't seem to be a lot of people there. There was not big crowds. There was not long lines like I was told there would be. I think this convention is going downhill, or people are waiting for more of the COVID shit to go away, which I don't blame them.
It's probably 50-50 point. I think with the show being out of the way and people moving on, it's probably on the downslide because they have no reason to promote it anymore. But at the same time, I think the COVID's really making a dent in it.
Yeah. The best amount of money we spent there, though, going back to that, was not sticker shock. $20 to get a picture with baby, and they did not fuck around. You got to go in that car, out the car. You got to touch the props. You got to touch the car. You got to climb in it. You got to do whatever the hell you want in that car. You basically got to molest that car for $20.
Nothing that Dean's not already done to it.
Correct. So we had some fun. For $20, it was the best $20 we spent. So,
my opinion of conventions is highly, biased because of the fact that when I first went to one, this has been, I don't know, like 15 years ago, mind you, before The Walking Dead blew up, which I think is really the show that threw conventions into this hyper like price, place that it's at. We saw Norman Reedus, big Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, he was, the only thing he was known for at the time was the Boondock Saints, and he was there.
And maybe one Lady Gaga video.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if he was known for that. It was literally the Boondock Saints, and it's such a cult series that him and the couple of guys that are the main, trio in the movie were all like beside each other. But I remember getting a picture of Norman Reedus. He had like maybe 3 people in his line, $10 to get a photo with him at his booth, and the dude is like super into like digital photography. So I remember like the guy in front of me was like having an issue with his like DSLR not working, and Norman Reedus actually sat there and fixed the guy's camera for him so he could have a picture taken. And I'm like, you're never going to get this kind of like interaction with a celebrity ever again, or have that kind of like, just one-on-one time, because like literally sat there for like 5-10 minutes just kind of chatting it up before I ever had the picture, and said $10 for like, Norman Reedus. And I think now he goes for like hundreds of bucks, and you have to take the, do the photo ops and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Which the photo ops to me, they always It's like, oh, it's a professional photographer. Make sure they're just school photos. Like, I don't get anything out of those at all. The only ones that might be interesting are the few times that I think at Horror Hound that they have in Indiana, next to where Don's at. They have they've had a couple times where was Frugger's actor has, and I don't know his name suddenly, but anyways, like he came there and like he actually put a mask on and like a sweater to look like Freddy. Those would be cool.
Yeah.
But like otherwise, just having like a picture with the celebrity themselves in front of like this backdrop. No, that's not. I don't know why they should get paid that much for those. Especially not with that partition like you all had to put up with.
Well, here's the thing: is you could tell. Okay, I need to throw this out here. How much conventions feel like a fucking cult? They feel like a fucking cult. It's like the celebrities are there to keep you pumped. They're the Tom Cruise of fucking Scientology, okay? It felt so fake to me for the majority, but you could tell there were certain actors that were sincere. Like we had Timothy Amundsen. He was legit.
Yes.
Rowena and the women, they were legit. They were happy to be there. Rowena was the sweetest person. She did not rush, not Rowena, but I'm saying Rowena because I'm just obviously associating the character. But Ruth was just so sweet, didn't rush anybody. Her photographer is a professional. He's at all of these conventions. Everyone knows him by name. I did not. My first one, Virgin. And he was so sweet. They were like, take off your mask. He took my glasses. He grabbed my glasses from me and was like, I'm going to hold those. And like they made sure that my picture was as good as it was going to be given the situation we were in. They made it a good experience. It wasn't a hurry up, stand right here. They did have their basic poses. I chose the pose that I did because I was like, I can't think of anything and whatever. And I don't even want to be here with you right now, Ruth. If we're being honest, you were my second pick. So, so they made it good. But yes, being at that convention, Avi and I were the minority in the fact that we didn't fit the criteria. And it's really, in my opinion, disrespectful. So I'm not going to describe the criteria off air. I will. We didn't look like the people there. And even with our flannel, we didn't blend in when we did wear flannel one time. There was only maybe 5 people who looked like Avi and I that just weren't overly done for this convention. So maybe we were the duds.
Oh, I got you. They were like mini cosplaying without actually being full cosplay type situation.
Correct. Yes. And it wasn't even cosplay. It's just like they all looked like the same person and not a character either on the show. They just, there's a type, okay? There is a type. And like I said, you
don't have to get politically, like get yourself in hot water.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to do that. 100% not going to do that. But yeah, no. And so it was funny, but it also felt like a cult because these people were just clinging on to these actors' words and people were crying. And I'm sitting here like, this is some bullshit. I'm hungry. Like, looking at Avi like, let's go take a nap. And we did. So, and granted, like I said, Avi's going to think that I had the worst time. 100% did not have the worst time. I would definitely do it again. I had so much fun. I was people watching. I don't feel like anything was wasted. And I don't feel like it was, like it wasn't worth it. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Cult.
For the people that's probably screaming at home, Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. I realized that after I was saying it. I was like, oh, yeah, that was his name.
Oh, my God.
Forgive me.
I didn't realize. I thought you intentionally. Okay. Moving on. That didn't take up too much time. I thought we were talking for longer. I'm glad we're at the time that we're at.
So we're going to get into the things we've watched, but something we've mutually watched is Cuphead. So go ahead and describe your impressions of Cuphead.
Oh, my God. Is that show not fucking amazing? It is.
It's pretty good.
It's okay. For you youngsters at home, if any of you youngsters listening to this, I'm hoping there's people more our age, but I don't want to discriminate. We'll take them all here. This is how cartoons were back in the day. And I don't mean back in the day, like in the 40s either. Well, they were like this in the 40s, but this is how they were through the 90s as well. You had the violence, you had, kids being a little more than kids, if you will. Crazy shit going on, but the amount of devil shit that is in this cartoon is fucking hilarious. It is so, like, I don't know, it just blends in. It's like, you have to be an adult to know that it's there. And it reminds me of all the shit that we missed as a kid, like the sexual innuendos, the smoking and the drinking and all that stuff. I don't know why, as a fucking 39 3/4-year-old woman, that I am watching this show and fucking enjoying it. And I even watched it without my son because he decided he wanted to go play video games. And I was like, well, you can fuck right off because I want to see the next episode. And that's exactly what I did. And I have no shame. I really like how they're about, 15 minutes?
They're 15 to 20. They're not long. Yeah.
No, they're not long at all. I don't have a lot of time on my hands these days, so it's kind of nice. My husband and I, we're just sitting and fucking watching these. I don't know for sure. I think I might have missed the last episode. I haven't watched it yet. So, but from what I've seen, I'm gonna go right out and say it. 5 out of 5 on the Rotten Corpses scale.
I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 just for that Ghost Ain't Real episode because that is almost a yearly. I want to add that to my Halloween tradition.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not that I want to have, I almost want to go out and buy the show so I don't have to have Netflix around Halloween, just if, for whatever reason, just to watch that because the thing I always liked about the game was it had that old-timey animation, kind of like which the one gripe I'd have about the show I got to throw out there is that it's a little bit more crisp and a little bit, the color's a little bit more vibrant than the game is because the game's got, it's got like a sun-faded
to
it. It's kind of
looks old.
It's old. And it's got more scratches and stuff like that on the film print, which this one doesn't have as much. You can see them, but they're not as obvious. But the one thing I love about the game is it has those like 3D backgrounds that it adds to the 2D animation to make it like, just it gives like a different feel to it. And that's one thing I like whenever they mix media, whenever it comes to cartoons, because there's one, and I can't ever remember the name of it, that's on, I think that Gumbo or Gumball show, Amazing Gumball show. That's on like Nick or one of those networks.
My kids watch that.
It kind of does that. Where they add like 3D models and puppets and stuff in there, but they do that with Cuphead, especially in the episode Ghost Ain't Real, which on top of the fact that it references even like the old-timey dancing skeletons, from the Merry Melodies cartoons. It's got those 3D, like the mausoleums and, like the graves and stuff as they're walking through there are like all 3D like models and stuff. And I love how that looks. It's good.
That was a good episode. That was a good Halloween episode.
Yeah.
It is 100% an October like tradition.
Yeah, it even had like when they go inside the house and they're like going up, there's like a Grim Reaper like figure that appears, which is way spookier than anything that was in. Well, I'd say that, but there was one in an old Mickey Mouse cartoon that looked similar to that. But that's where they got a lot of these, like the inspiration for this show. So, for anybody who's like, why the hell are they bringing up Cuphead? Well, the game obviously is about Cuphead losing his soul on a gamble to the devil, and they've kind of did that in the show, in a different way. But watch that Ghost Ain't Real episode if you're into like especially the old timey Betty Boop Halloween cartoon specials or the Merry Melodies. It's right in there. It's a good fit. Yeah,
and if you are looking for a fun, friendly, hard to play game, but still, because that game's hard. My kids got it.
I can't beat it.
Oh my God. My son, you got to see him. He tries and he tries. He's made it pretty far in that game, but he's made it farther than you. So
yeah,
but it's taken many attempts and he's got way more time than we do. But when I first bought this game for them 2-ish years ago, I believe it was $9.99, a bargain. A friend contacted me recently, and she's like, hey, have you seen this cool Cuphead game? They got a show on Netflix. And I'm like, bitch, it's been 2 years. Sorry, tits. I'm calling you out on this one from the Hot Mess Express show. But so I was like, yeah. She's like, where can I get this? And I was like, the only place I know you can get it, you can't even buy you can't buy a hard copy of the game. You have to buy the digital version only. Folks, that has gone up to $19.99. So still a bargain, but I think with its popularity, it's going to jump up there. Maybe not to the $60 range. It's not a $60 game, but it definitely, Nintendo has this way of doing exactly what you said, that 2D and 3D together to make it, I don't know, just feel it has a feel to it of something like that. So I think they're going to start banking on this. At minimum, it's going to be a $40 game. So
they might. I think it's always been priced around the $20 mark, give or take. I remember when it first came out, I actually got like it's not a physical game, but I did get like a download and a physical version of the album that goes along with the game.
What?
I still have the album. So, yeah, like it's a CD or something of the soundtrack.
I hate you.
I think from like GameStop whenever it first came out.
Damn it.
I do have that.
Damn you, Target. That's where I got it. Kids are like, Cuphead. I'm like, that looks fucking weird. Let's get it. $9? Fuck yeah. You both get that. You get a Cuphead game. You get a Cuphead game. I can afford that for both of you because Nintendo don't let you share even on a family plan. And folks, we have temporarily lost the Reverend. Give him just a moment. He'll be back. Yeah, the spirits sure didn't appreciate that, huh?
I can tell you what it was. It's a little blooper you can throw in here. Actually, I was trying to switch screens here, and I clicked the wrong button. So there you go.
It was such a short transition, and it was funny because I was like, well, folks, we lost the Reverend. He'll be back momentarily. I wish I had. I'm going to throw in some cheap music to cover that up.
Just waiting.
Some Cuphead music.
Yeah. What have you watched anything else? I was going to ask you that before we got into some of the stuff I've been watching.
I have, and it'll be very brief because I don't have a ton to say other than good things. I have started watching again because I started it, I think, at the beginning of this season of Death Holler. And while I was on my way to Vegas, two things. I started watching, oh God, why can't I think of the name right now? Lock and Key.
Okay.
It's getting good, as usual. Why I'm not stuck on that show like I was on what we were watching on Netflix, Haunting.
The Haunting of Hill House.
The Haunting of Hill House. Why I'm not stuck on it like that, I don't understand, because every episode is fucking gripping. And I don't trust no character in that show. So that's really all I'm going to say about that, because I really I'm like maybe 4 or 5 episodes in, if even that. And then I also started reading The Black Phone by Stephen King. Now, granted, I just started reading it. I haven't made it through completely. It's basically a book of stories. And the first story...
Is that Stephen King or is that Joe Hill?
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe Hill. Whoopsie-doo. Okay. It's Joe Hill. Reads identical, in my opinion. I mean, obviously not identical. People are going to fucking murder me for that. But really, really brought back memories of when I was reading Nightmares and Dreamscapes by Stephen King.
Okay.
So, again, I don't want to go deep into it, but that is the horrors I have been experiencing since our last talk.
I think we brought this up on maybe a Death Holler News, but they are making a story based upon one of the segments out of that movie. Because you showed me the cover, and that guy that's on the cover, I think Ethan Hawke, is playing in a new movie that's coming out from Joe Hill.
And I'm sorry, doesn't that character on the front cover, doesn't that look like Stephen King to you? Take a look at that photo. Every time I see it, I'm like, that's like a dead Stephen King. Like...
Well, I'll have to look at it because that's not what I'm saying. Just because I can't see Ethan Hawke or see it without seeing Ethan Hawke now, because that's what they made the character look like. But
I want to say one more thing though. We did watch something else. The husband and I. We started Nosferatu, which is the also Joe Hill, and that's the series that I forget. Is that, I don't know if that's on Hulu or what exactly that's on, but the hubs and I have been watching it. And
AMC, I believe. AMC.
AMC? Okay. I don't know how we watched it then.
It's on Shudder, so you might have seen it on that. I don't know, but
okay. And I'm gonna say briefly, we're only maybe 2-3 episodes in. It's coming off very fantasy versus horror at the moment.
Yes.
And it's good. I'm not going to take that away. It's just a little goofy to me. Maybe I was expecting more horror. It's pretty cool, though. And one of the vampires, it reminds me of the vampires from 30 Days of Night. So That's cool.
Okay.
Back to you, Reverend.
Well, I'm going to throw it back to you for one more thing because you did mention you watched Scream, and
Oh,
you
God.
have a drastically different opinion than I do on this movie.
Oh,
so I want you to go over this.
I am not worthy to discuss this in its entirety because I have not completed the film in its entirety because quick, like right off the bat, my knee-jerk reaction, hot garbage. I did not like it. It just, because back when we first saw Scream, we were youngins and it was so good. Even the sequels to it might have been the same kind of thing over and over, but they just had these ways of kind of, getting you and surprising you. And then it turned out to be the same thing, but you're like, fuck, that was good anyways. And this is exactly that. But it feels like it's not even I know it's meta, and I keep trying to remind myself that this is what they're trying to do because basically they're trying to remake the movie, and they know that the movie's being remade, and they're saying this. The actors are not selling it, in my opinion. And then the older actors that are in it, I still like them, actually. It's just, I don't know. I couldn't get into it. Even my kids were like, oh my God. And like I said, Benny, his favorite thing is hot garbage. That's his favorite thing to say. And he said hot garbage. Wasn't a snooze fest, but I was laughing more than anything, and not because it was great.
I've seen some people have that reaction to it, but then I don't know, because some of those people who say that also turn around and say that the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre was good. And,
I didn't like that one either, but I also just don't like anything, to be fair. So,
but I going back on what you're saying, I often wonder, because of the age we were at the time the original Scream came out, if like the older horror fans who were like teenagers maybe whenever and grew up with and went to the drive-in to watch like the Freddy and Jason movies and that sort of thing, if they looked at Scream and thought that it was kind of the same way, like hot garbage, too meta and that sort of thing, because it was kind of that way when it came out.
Yeah, but it was so smooth meta, though. It feels like it feels like it's trying too hard. But anyways, I think that if I finish this film, that I might actually like it. So shame on me. So I will apologize if I watch this film and I'm like, wait, because I don't know the ending. I have not had a spoiler alert yet. Obviously, I don't care about spoiler alerts, but I will take back what I say because it might be great. I've heard, like you said, either people love it or they hate it. So.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, and there's a new one out that by Ty West, the one that you were not overly fond of, who made House of the Devil, and it's called X, and it's getting the same love it or hate it type thing too, because it's a extreme throwback. The gist of it is that people are these young people are like filming a porno basically in like this rural Texas town, and they're using a property to film it that this old couple has, and it pisses the old couple off, and I guess they're the killers. Maybe, I don't know, from the description that's what it reads like.
Probably that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but a lot of people are saying that it's kind of a throwback to the old slasher films, but it could, but then other people are saying it's just lame and movie. So I don't know. I'm seeing both sides on that one. So right now, I don't think in the past couple of years there's been any universally loved horror movies, unfortunately.
So your unofficial review of the most recent Scream.
I love that new Scream movie. I mean, the meta to me works. I mean, just because it's making fun of me basically. I mean, it's like making fun of people who are into elevated horror and saying that they're too good for people who like Midsummer, Hereditary, saying they're too good for like the slashers. But it's kind of fun because I mean I like that stuff too. So I mean I can sit there and laugh at it without getting all pissy about it. But it's just, I think it's interesting that whenever he's asking her, like, what's your favorite scary movie? And she's like, oh, It Follows and The Babadook. And
yeah.
Like, I love those movies. And he's like, those fucking, lousy movies. It's like, well, why don't you watch something real? And it's just funny because that's like the horror community in general.
Yeah.
Like, it's a division. Either you like I mean, I'm going to bring up a movie that I saw recently in Joe Bob's drive-in, theater that is an extreme Z-grade movie that I was actually entertained by. That, I mean, just because I like elevated horror movies doesn't mean I don't like some of the old trash too. So, we'll get right into that. I mean, talking about stuff I've seen. So it was on Joe Bob's Heartbreak Trailer Park special that he did for Valentine's Day. He had Black Roses on, which I know a lot of people have fond opinions of that movie, but for me, I didn't really get into that, and I never was really into. I mean, I never got into it back in the day, so maybe that's why. It's like a throwback to the Satanic Panic stuff of the '80s, where like there's this horror or there's this metal band who is coming to this like little rinky-dink town, and they are putting on a show, but they everybody in town's like saying their music's satanic and trying to warn against them playing, and it turns out it really is satanic, that they turn into demons at the end of the concert and start killing people. So it's one of those type movies. I never really cared for that one that much. It's campy in a decent way, but it's still not one. I mean, I don't know. It never hit with me. But the next movie he plays on that episode is Frankenhooker, which is
I'm sorry, what?
Frankenhooker. And it's exactly what you would think it would be. It's like a trauma level film where like this guy from Jersey loses his bride to be like on their wedding day from a horrible lawnmower accident of all things. She gets chopped up, and the only thing that's left is her head that he keeps like in preservation as he's trying to figure out a way to bring her back to life. And the way he figures to bring her back to life is to go to the local hookers in New York, feeds them a bunch of super crack that he makes up,
oh my God.
Which causes them to all their bodies to explode. And he salvages what he can of the bodies and makes his former fiance into a reanimated hooker, basically, that goes around because her brain's kind of addled at this point in the movie. She just goes around asking, do you want to date? How much money you got? Do you want to date? How much money you got?
That doesn't make sense, because that would only make sense if he had to like use one of the hooker's brains. But
I know.
I'm thinking way too logically for this type of film.
You're talking about a movie where the guy literally, every time that he starts feeling any kind of remorse over what he's doing, he takes a screwdriver or a cordless screwdriver with a drill bit attached to in it and screws into his brain behind his ear, and causes and then whenever he monkeys with his brain, he loses that, inhibition. And he's like, okay, now I've got a good idea on how to, go about doing this. That's the type of movie this is.
What the hell? It's like,
it's so campy, but at the scene at the end of it where the pimp who's lost all of his hoes, and like he walks in as they're all exploding from the super crack. This is the kind of movie we're talking about. He comes in and he realizes that whenever he hears the Frankenhooker talking in a local tavern or a bar, that she is and he also sees that one of her like left butt cheeks or something has like this tattoo, his mark on it. He realizes that those are some of his host body parts that she's made out of. He goes and he punches her head literally off. Like he punches her so hard that her sewn head like flops back on her neck, and it's just kind of hanging there. And it's at this point in the movie where the guy brings her back to life, and she finally gets reset mentally to where she's his fiance.
Oh my God.
And the movie ends in a way that would get anybody in hot water nowadays. While he's sitting there talking to his fiance who's just been reanimated, the pimp walks in, cuts his head off. She ends up, or like he gets attacked by the reanimated body parts or whatever of the women that are still left in like this cooler behind him. They all like combine together in this like goo, and they like kill him. She takes she can't, because the Frankenhooker serum only works on estrogen, which is the whole thing. It doesn't.
So much science went into this film.
She brings her fiance back to life at the end of the movie, but he has like boobs in a female body now, and she says that she still loves him, and she's going to, even though he's like that, and he's like all freaking out because he's a woman, and that would definitely get him in hot water in today's society. That he is no longer happy that he's a man with lady parts.
I don't think they have anything to worry about, because I don't think people are dying to watch this film, especially. The people who would complain about something like that are too busy picking fucking fleas or flies out of fucking horse shit, okay? They're they're too busy watching films that actually don't have anything like that and saying, well, that could have meant that, and I'm offended. And those people live in San Francisco. But they're not watching films like this. Where it's clear and it's right there, they're not watching these films.
But it's an absolutely horrible movie. It's just, but it's entertaining. Like, I don't know what to say about it otherwise.
You and Noah are on some other level that I can't with you two.
Well, wait till I get to my description on our Attack of the Bees that's coming up, because that one is a trauma level without any of the enjoyability. So we'll see the flip side of this whole mess.
Do we just want to roll right into that, or you got another one?
I've got a few more things I
want
to bring
up
real
go.
quick. I did go through all of Mike Flanagan's films since I realized he incepted me for this episode. Because when I suggested this, I did not realize it was a Mike Flanagan film. So I'm going to throw that out there to the people. Mike Flanagan he's deep in my mind now. I don't know the guy. And I think after watching the rest of his films, like, he's probably one of my favorite modern like directors when it comes to horror movies, because he has a movie like that's like one of his like third or fourth that he ever did. That's right after he did Oculus, called Hush, and it stars his beautiful wife. And
shocker!
And it's mostly about her. She's like the primary focus in the entire movie, where she is like this. She's a deaf mute author who lives kind of by herself away from society. She's got like maybe one neighbor down the road. And her neighbor is attacked and killed at her, runs to her place, but is killed while she doesn't realize it by this masked assailant. And the rest of the movie is her trying to survive against this guy in kind of like a slasher type situation. And it's probably one of the best in the genre that I've ever seen. Like, the way that she comes back and she defends herself, the realism to it. I mean, like, it's just expertly done. I can't. I mean, if you haven't seen Hush, I highly suggest to watch it. I watched his first film that he came out with called Absentia. It's kind of a weird one. But if you've ever been around like a tunnel type situation in a city and thought that the place was really weird, or the crackheads that lives around it are really strange, this movie was probably inspired by that, because that's what it's about, kind of. Gerald's Game on Netflix, a really good Stephen King adaptation. Mike Flanagan's the best for that. And the funny thing is, Llareyna, Midnight Mass is like one of his newest shows, but Midnight Mass is the book that his wife's character was writing in Hush.
Oh,
like,
shit.
Years ago. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And in Gerald's Game, one of the books that she knocks off the shelf after right before, or maybe right, or I think it's right after she realizes her situation she's in, is Midnight Mass. So Mass is like this link through a lot of his movies, and he uses a lot of the same actors and actresses. So the one other film I think is Before I Wake. That's kind of like more of a fantasy type movie, but it's got horror elements to it. It's about this kid that whenever he dreams at night, whatever he dreams becomes real.
Ugh.
And
that will get me. Oh, man.
When the kid has nightmares, you know, that brings a lot of bad things in our reality. So
I'm not liking the monster I'm seeing.
The ending is great, though. It's probably one of the best. If the movie was 20 minutes shorter and didn't drag as much in the middle, I would recommend it probably as one of his best movies. But having said that, I mean, it's still worth watching to the end, because it's got one of those bittersweet, heartfelt endings to it that is actually worth staying for. I did watch Deep House, which will probably, I think, is for sure going to be the next Attack of the Bees after this episode. Dawn recommended that to me, or Fred, for those who've been keeping up.
Just giving away their incognito names.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, we've been at this long enough.
We don't have that many listeners, so if we've got people putting it together and attacking these people, hey, fuck you.
But he recommended it to me, and I've seen it in some other places, so I finally broke down and watched it. And it's an interesting setting for a movie. I mean, it's basically like there's a haunted house underneath the water.
Oh yeah, that looks badass.
It's got a few things that I'll get into with Attack of the Bees that were pet peeves of mine, but I do enjoy it. So
I do love the poster for it.
Well, the setting is good. I mean, just because you can imagine how spooky it is. It's like investigating like a sunken ship or something. You know,
yeah.
It's kind of got that vibe to it.
Oh man, I mean,
go ahead.
Deep House. Okay. I guess maybe I need to go to see what the viewers rated it. It did pretty good on. Oh, never mind. Just kidding. Moving on.
It's there. I'll discuss it. But anyways, I did finish up Archive 81 on Netflix. I think
that's hella good.
Maybe mention this. It's going to continue the way they set it up. It's going to continue. It's a time loop type thing at the end of it, or it's a time situation. It's got a lot of H.P. Lovecraft influences is all I'm going to say about it. Like if you get to the last couple episodes is like straight out of an H.P. Lovecraft novel where like rich elites back in the Victorian age are like summoning creatures from another dimension or a god from another dimension. And they fuck reality up by doing it. And that's kind of where the character in modern times is kind of dealing with it. So it's a slow burn, but it's worth it in the long run especially if you're into H.P. Lovecraft type stories.
It sounds super and it sounds natural.
I did play some different games that are horror related. I played a little bit more of that Final Girl.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Like I played two of the different maps, two more different maps, and two different villains on each one of them. One of them is Geppetto, who's the puppet master, and he's at the Carnival of Blood.
Oh shit!
Imagine a carnival where a puppet master is killing your friends and then making them like they're into meat puppets that he uses to send out to kill more people.
There's somewhere out there someone made a movie about that. I haven't seen it or heard of it, but it has to exist.
But that's what this is, and it just so happened that I got the weird event where one of the people at the carnival was also a werewolf, so that person was going around killing some stuff on the side while I was trying to take out the puppet master. And epic conclusion, I died right as I had the final blow against the bad guy, so we both died at the same time, but I did take him out. So
good job. Now you are a spirit.
And then the other one, I can't pronounce this right, so I'm just going to butcher it. It's like Inkanyaba is the name of this like cultist, he's kind of like worships like the old gods. It's like he's like an African, like spiritualist or something like that. But basically, he's the bad guy in this one because like you're a bunch of like American tourists that are coming and fucking up his ancestors' like native lands. And it kind of plays out like Club Dread in the sense that like my particular one that I had, I could not keep the people out of the cemetery. Like they were going there, having orgies, getting high, whatever they were doing at the cemetery. But like they were just piling in there in droves. And like the way that the map's set up, like not only does the guy get angry, but so do the gods. And so that means that you've got like two different things that you have to worry about. You have to appease them on occasion, like playing out these atonement cards. And I survived after like the third attempt at it, but like I after I was done, like my character was funny. The one that I had, like her special ability was if you have like people with you, she kind of like sacrifices them to do damage to the villain. So like I would bring like two people with me, all right, go get them, and like they would both die, but like he would like get knocked down by a couple of health. I ended up doing pretty good against that final round, but like the first couple rounds before I figured out what I was doing, they were just piling into that cemetery and just trashing it and getting like everybody, to the point where like I had no chance of surviving. So it was just kind of interesting that it was going that route. But if you've ever seen Club Dread, it's kind of that vibe where they're just at, in like the mausoleum, just partying it up and, like pissing off the natives. So, and there's a video game I played. It's like a little indie game that was on, I believe it's still on Xbox Game Pass, called Infernax. It is a extreme throwback to the old Castlevania style games. Also Link's Adventures of Zelda or Link's Adventure or something, like the second game in the series, which is side scrolling. But anyways, it's heavily influenced by Army of Darkness because the characters you like fight against. Like, I mean, you're looking for the Necronomicon. You're trying to send the Deadites, or the demons back to their resting place. You're fighting cultists who are trying to, and it's just like, if you can imagine, like a little 8-bit sprite who's just constantly covered in gore because he's sawing through the bad guys. That's what this game is. Like, there's even a cheat code that you can put in the game where you get a chainsaw like Ash and go around sawing the bad guys. So it was fun. Like, I played that one all the way through. So anything else before we move on?
Yes, I'm glad you asked, because we're going to go back to Mike Flanagan for just a brief moment.
Okay.
Mike Flanagan has yet, not including today's film, because I'm not going to spoil how I feel about today's film yet, but of all the things I've seen of his, he has not upset me yet. I think he's a creative genius in terms of his films. I really am entertained by them. Okay.
If you have the chance, legit go and try to watch his other films. I mean, I'm serious. Like, I've not been disappointed by any of them. I'm just going to throw it out there as a spoiler, even for today's podcast, because he's legit like one of my favorite directors now that I've seen.
Oh yeah.
Even his earliest movie, Absentia, there's something there. You can see why he became the director he is now.
Yeah. That being said, him being so smart and creative genius, his wife is definitely attracted to his brain.
Yes, he is not a looker.
He is
sure.
not a looker, but I bet you he's a good husband, and she does not look like she's not happy. So, girls, go for the smart ones, okay? I'm telling you, you'll be a lot happier.
All right, and with that, let's go to Attack of the Bees.